Okay, this is gonna all right. All right. So what's gonna happen here is uh it's not connecting to it's not connecting to the what's it called? To the page. But I've connected to my personal page. That way I'll download it later and then post it to the pages. So hey, more more excitement for us. We're in our cozy space. So okay. So let me
More
just make
reason to
sure
make it
on
to the
this.
meeting.
All right. Okay. Well, okay. So it's recording on the on my personal page, like I said, and you guys want to watch it afterward, I will download it and then put it on the pages. So, all right, let's get into. Let me just start here the presentation. All right. Good evening, guys and girls. My name is John. I am the administrator of the Robotech fan pages, Robotech Novels Universe, and Robotech Stories. Also, the administrator of Robotech The Legacy, the official home of the Crazy Eight Squadron. I want to welcome everybody who is here tonight, live in our room. If you're watching us later on the replay of this, thank you so much for joining us. You are here with us in spirit. Uh, Tonight is another stop on our anniversary tour, which we call the Robo Turns 4-0, no travel required, baby. And the reason we call it that is because, hey, we got people from all over the world that are Robotech fans, and we prove it. We've proven it time and time again. I mean, tonight we have from Wales, and we have from the Kingdom of Jordan, and the United States, and our events are a worldwide thing, and I figured, hey, not all of us can get to conventions, so why not do an unconventional convention tour? And that's where the Robo Turns 4-0, no travel required, baby, was born. Uh, we've had one, two. This is our fourth one for the year, and our last one was a blast. Never before done. We had an award show a la the Oscar style called the Golden Globals. 3 hours, almost 3 hours of entertainment, of surprises, prizes, and just real a memorable and historic moment. And for those of you that joined us that night, thank you so much. For those that are joining us tonight, again, you have my eternal thanks. And just this ride of Robotech's 40th anniversary, I've kind of given it kind of a tagline of believe in the possibilities. And I've said before, I've tried to find what exactly does that mean. And as we're now coming almost to the middle of the year, the possibilities is this: the conversations that we have, whether you're here from the pages Robotech Novels Universe and Robotech Stories, or even from Reddit. I've met some cool people from Reddit, and also that were at the Golden Globals. So uh to me, the possibilities of talking about Robotech, talking, you know there's so many things that you could talk about beyond the 85 episodes, beyond the comics, beyond even the novels, which I love so much, beyond the RPG. And I think that's the point of believing in the possibilities, because it has produced some great moments, and they're going to produce more great moments, because we're just coming up to half of 2025. There's still a lot of year left, and there's going to still be time for a lot of Robotech moments, whether that be on social media or on right here in our live events. So let's get to tonight's subject. And so it's been a topic that has been it's been talked about for a lot of years. Robotech, of course, are three. It has three acts, three sagas. You have the Macross saga. You have that's the first one. Then you have the third one, which is the New Generation, and then you have the middle child, which is the Master saga. It's called Robotech the Master saga, the Southern Cross saga. So, um, and you have a lot of people who are on both sides of the fence regarding their like or dislike of it. There are those that call it the weakest of the Robotech, of the weakest of the three acts. There are others that defend it passionately. Some would say obsessively, but that's another story for another day. But uh, there are, but it gets people talking because it's it has a unique set of characters. It's kind of a kind of a departure from what you saw in episode 36 to the stars, because that finished with a literal bang. And uh then you move on to the next act, which starts about almost 15 years later. And so tonight's discussion, our roundtable, and that's the title of our live event, Robotech, the Master Saga, the case for and against. And uh, I want to get, let me start with start our, what's this called? Our PowerPoint presentation. All right. So, the case, Robotech the Masters, the case for and against. So, uh, first of all, before we start and get into the discussion, I want to get the legalities out of the way, as I am becoming more and more out there with my content. I do want to remind this is a fan produced presentation. It's a non commercial tribute to the Robotech franchise and its creative legacy. Robotech and all related trademarks, characters, artwork, and music are the property of Harmony Gold USA. All music, images, and video clips used herein are for nonprofit educational and entertainment purposes, only under the fair use doctrine of Section 107 of the U.S. Copyright Act. No infringement is intended. This event exists solely to honor and celebrate Robotech, its fandom, and it's not nearly anymore. It's 40 years of storytelling. All right. So when we get into the discussion, easy ground rules. I'm going to have a series of questions, 11 to be exact. I'm going to go around the room after I ask it, after I introduce it. And at the end, I'll give a comment closing the question. When it comes to answering the questions, I do ask, stay on topic and realize we are not all going to agree. If that's something that's kind of a standard here in the in in the past, some of the discussions we have, we tend all to disagree and have our own view on Robotech, which is a good thing because in my communities, it's all canon. So just let's try not to interrupt each other's answers. And given, we've got quite a few people, let's try not to go overboard with time. So I want to get to everybody with each question. So full transparency, I am for the Master Saga. Outside of this, I would make the case for, but as a moderator tonight, I'm going to be the devil's advocate and just kind of with my questions, hopefully, I'm not to sway you or anything like that, but just look at it from a different perspective. So, all right, let us get into it with our discussion, and we'll get to the first question. Episode 36, To the Stars. It felt like a powerful and an emotional finale. You could have really ended the Robotech story there. Because of syndication rules at the time that needed a minimum of 65 episodes, Robotech was destined for more. And instead of stopping there, which they couldn't, obviously, the series continued into the Master Saga, which takes a little bit more. And please, if you disagree with that, it's okay to say, I think more of a methodical tone. Um, and so my question with this, do you think this shift served as a deliberate cooling off of the Macross Saga's climax, or was it a hint that this story was going to be a very different one than the first 36 episodes that we watched? And if I can. All right. So there you go. So I'm going to go in the order in which I see you on screen. So uh Brian, Brian D, Brian Denemy. So go ahead.
Okay. Was was it a cooling off? I don't know if I would call it a cooling off so much as just a change in tone. The if you look at Macross, Macross was, oh my God, what the hell just fell into our lap, and how are we going to survive? Masters was, okay, the worst we could think of happened, and now we're surviving. It's not a question of how we're going to survive. We're surviving. So that in and of itself creates a different tone.
Okay.
So keeping it short and sweet, right?
All right. The okay, Geith, what are your thoughts? How did you see it as you transitioned from uh Macross to Masters?
Well, it was definitely a change of, let's say, tone, pace, things like that. It it was definitely slower. It was slower. It was more difficult to get into. When I first saw it, obviously as a child, I wasn't that keen on Masters. I went through it, but I didn't follow it. Let's say as keenly uh, or with the same interest. And it was even as an adult when I watched it again, it was a bit more difficult to pay attention to everything or to keep up with it because it just seemed to I don't know, get mired down for a few episodes. Then you'd have an episode where some things would start happening. I don't know. It was definitely the weakest link in the, let's say, the animated series, but not one that I would not one that I would have get rid of. Let's say
Okay.
it definitely has its pace, but it was the weakest for me.
Okay. Up next, probably our most passionate fans tonight, Chris and Henry.
I'll go first real quick. I'll just say to keep it short, I'm going to let Henry answer a lot of these unless he doesn't have an answer, but he does have an answer, so I yield the floor to him. All right, go Henry.
Uh, it's not it's not at all like Masters. It's different. It's not meant to be the same thing. It's meant to be something different. It's meant to be like a new era.
That is very true because you're looking at about a 15-year jump. So, things
Hmm.
obviously, things are going to change within that time.
Yeah. And another thing I have to say is it's just very necessary to the storyline because we need the input to show up for new generation and we need to see like Macross, like see it moving on from the end of Macross. We need to see that city from the end.
All very interesting points. You got to keep the story rolling as time goes by with the in the story arcs, you obviously you're going to have different people, different situations, and an entirely different story. So, very good points you bring up, Henry, and thank you once again
Thank
for being the
you.
next generation of our fandom. Mr.
Good job,
Donald
buddy.
Welch, how are you? You got to unmute. Can you hear
Yeah,
us? Okay.
and the Masters is interesting, social, political. From what I was told, the reason why it was so short, it wasn't very popular in Japan. But
Very true.
but I like the NECA. You know, like the tank. Yeah, you got. Oh, that's all I gotta say about it.
Oh, okay. Mr. Ian Smith.
Thank you. Okay. Well, I probably you might find my position on it to be kind of unique. I don't hate the Masters. Okay. I think there are some things about it that I do like. Uh, there are other things about it that I find there are plot points about it that I find glaringly frustrating. But I think that they owe more to, I think that a lot of those problems owe just as probably more, if not just as much, to the fact of the actual production of the anime that it was based on. Southern Cross, as Donald mentioned, yeah, it wasn't popular in Japan. Its run got cut short. And I think that owes to a lot of the problems. If I had to sum up the Masters in one word, it's disjointed. I think that's a very fair assessment of it. I'll hold my other further details about what I liked, what I didn't about it as we get into. I'm sure that there's going to be other questions, so I'll keep my powder dry on that. But yeah, but I think it does suffer from that. It's the Jan Brady of the series, as I like to call it. But that said, I think that there are some good qualities in it. I think that a lot of later subsequent writers and comic book writers and authors have done a pretty good job of rehabilitating that part of it and actually make it more compelling. And there is, but I did see the potential in there, and I'm glad that other works are realizing that. But as leaving it as the show as itself, it is disjointed. But we'll get into that later.
Okay. All right, we've got a passionate fan who has a her Dana Sterling statue right behind her, Mara Brandley. So, give us your take.
So, when I started watching Robotech, I had been watching G.I. Joe, and so I would flip the channels here and there and see what the show was about. And I started watching Robotech during the Masters run. So it's my favorite. I think it's so colorful. I love the characters. There's so many characters, so many different kinds. Music's awesome. Yeah, I'm here to defend.
All right. There are some good questions ahead, I promise. So, Mr. Mark Hemingway with his Robotech Masters logo behind him.
Got the theme going, yeah. So to the question, part of it, okay, a cooling down. It may have seemed that way, but I think because it's on a smaller scale than the first generation, because it's more localized. It's it deals with it's not so global and planetary as the first one. So it does feel like a cooling down, but it is a lot of action in there too. It's kept, and like she mentioned, a lot of good characters in that too. And it was a departure. I think they could have done more to weave the two together. They had a few mentions of it, like you had a few segments. I think there was one segment where Dana has a flash where she sees her parents, but I remember I was watching as a kid, it was really disconnected, and only later on as an adult watching it, I could see there's a little bit of connection made, but they could have done a better job of meshing the two together. More mentions of the previous series, the previous characters, something like that.
Okay, fair enough. I think a lot of people say that they, what Ian was referring to earlier about that, the run of the original anime got cut short. So they were left to work with what they had, but they made it work. They made it work tried to make it as consistent as possible. So, but awesome. And again, thank you for being part of this. I love the background. So, Mr. Jason Stefani, thank you so much for being part of this. So let's get your take, buddy.
Wow, I got the spotlight on me. Okay. I know last time we got together, I controversially referred to the Masters saga as the second generation Ford Mustang of the series, and that got a reaction out of Brian. I remember that. Look, but here's the thing.
Still does.
Yep. I'm a bit of a car nut. But the thing is, I do agree that it was the weakest portion of the series, but it was necessary because you can't just end with to the stars and then all of a sudden the invites show up. People will be like, "What the hell?" So the Masters, if you ask me, is a great bridge between the Macross saga and the New Generation saga. So yes, in Japan, the original Southern Cross series did get cut short, and that's probably one of the reasons why it got disjointed. Why it feels disjointed. But if you think about it, Carl Masek did what he could with what little he had, because, like you said, To the Stars could have just ended the series after 36 episodes, but due to syndication rules, they had to keep going. But you know what? I'm glad they did what they did, considering what they had to work with. But I can understand why some people love it, but why some people don't. And I think it is necessary, even though it's my least favorite of the Robotech sagas. It was necessary, especially where the story is concerned.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, you brought a lot of good points. I mean, again, working with what you have and trying to make it work. So,
Exactly.
all right. The
I wish I
man
had more
from
time to rehearse.
Wales. The man from Wales with his last name England. Yeah.
Oh, Lordy.
How you doing, Chris?
All good, all good. When it comes to Masters, while it may not be my most favorite, that one always goes to Macross. I do have my favorite moments in it, and some of my favorite characters are in it. That being said, I do agree with Ian with the inconsistencies. What happened with the production in Japan did leave a lot of characters and mecha ideas left on the side. Like it's like they introduce it and then they don't go through with it. And you're probably going to be clapping your hands with me on this. I do prefer the novelization of the Masters over the TV series. And that's merely because they just took some of those points and just greatly expanded on it.
Yep, very true. We're gonna get into expanded universe in one of our questions, but yeah, all good points. So, Andrew Kolstad.
I think
Joining us
everybody's
tonight.
already.
A nice fan. I like the fan chat.
Thanks. I didn't have any pictures I took of anything from Southern Cross. The I thought the series was okay, and I too I didn't start to appreciate it until the novelization, but I did enjoy it because I liked the ground combat aspect and covering like a whole company of soldiers. So I like the narrower focus on units, and it came into its own in the novelization. I started to appreciate it a lot more.
Awesome. You're good. When we get into the expanded universe question, I'm sure you and a lot of people are gonna have a lot to say. Brian, Mr. T, how you doing tonight? Can you hear us, Brian? Or you? Oh, don't you? You don't have
He's
a.
posting in chat.
Oh, okay. Okay, if you don't have a mic, you could type out your yeah, go ahead and type out what you think. Or did you answer that before? Because I see you put that but go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, the floor is yours if you want to type out an answer. I can read what you wrote earlier. He's I watched on live TV in 85. The shift from characters I love passionately to strangers tangentially related to Macross was difficult. So the switch from the Rick Hunter, Lisa Hunter to a Dana Sterling, that transition was hard. And you could type, Brian. I can read your answer. So no, okay. Oh, we'll go. Oh, needed more needed more exposition from someone. Okay. All right. Well, I'll still come back to you for the next question. So, Santiago Gomez from Reddit. Oh, he was there. Oh, there you are.
From Reddit. That's right. No, I thought the transition was fine with the Dana story that kind of like bridged and kind of told you where you were in time and the story and who her parents were and what the lineage was. So that was cool. And I mean, as a kid, I think I didn't follow that one as closely, but towards the end of it, it was really all coming together, and I really liked that part of the show for sure. And then later on, read the novelization. I like the novelization version better than the TV version.
Okay. Yeah. I'm one of those with you. I'm right there with you with that. So, okay. Last but certainly not least, Mr. Lewis Griffiths. How you doing, buddy?
Doing good. I agree with what a lot of other people are saying. When I first saw the Masters, I kind of thought it was kind of disjointed, but then when I read up about how the original anime got cut short, I can kind of see where they're coming from. Yeah, it's kind of a change. It's because they're trying to make you slow it down. They're trying to emphasize the fact we've had the Reign of Death, we've had Chiron's Rebellion, the destruction of the SDF-1 and everything, and now we're having to shift to a different style of format. We're no longer with the RDF. They're gone now. So we're trying to shift to a new generation. The older generation is gone now. The mission, the trio. So we're trying to shift to a new generation. Let them, their story come through.
Great insights. Love the answer. And wow, you guys are bringing it tonight. To close out this question, I agree with what some of you have said, that with the Super Dimension Cavalry Southern Cross, which was the original Japanese anime that the footage comes from, Carl Masick and the crew had to work with what they had. And yes, it's different. I think if you started watching Robotech from there, it works. If you come off of episode 36, going into, there's a cool off. That's, I'd say for me that's what happens, but that, but does it go freezing cold? No. So it's different as Henry said before, you're moving, you got to continue the story in order to get to the ultimate, with the Infinite Arrival and the events that happen in the Master Saga are crucial. So, all right, we're on a groove. So let's get into question 2, and this one should be easy for you guys to discuss. And let's talk about our main character, Dana Sterling. Obviously, she is. Let me. I can just share. All right. That's a sir. I should have put that one earlier. So, okay. Our main character is Dana Sterling. She is the offspring of legendary Robotech and /Zentradi aces Maximilian Sterling and Miria Perino, who fell in love during the first Robotech War and the first joining of the Zentradi and a human, married. And you do see baby Dana in a couple of episodes, especially in Viva Miria. So, So that baby turns out to be the hero of the second act of Robotech, which is the you know, she's a bold shift from her parents. Okay. Two of the most disciplined and skilled aces in Robotech history. And their daughter's kind of like the opposite. She's impulsive, insubordinate at times, has seen clashing with her fellow soldiers, especially with Angelo Dante. So my question, it's kind of a two-parter. Did Dana fulfill the role of being the heir to Robotech's most celebrated pilots, or did the story lean too much on legacy? And I'll go so far to say, could it have worked just as well or better as a fresh face, not related to Max and Miria, or even the child of a different Robotech character? Who knows? It could have been, I mean, the timing is there that it could have been Rick and Lisa's daughter. So that is my question to you guys. And let me put the screen back on. Brian, go ahead.
Oh boy. So, so I'm going to list a few things on Dana, and you kind of already touched upon them. This is a child who grew up in the shadow of not one great parent, historically speaking, but two great parents, or two parents who had a great impact on the global platform. And then at a young age, from her perspective, they abandoned her. Then she grows up in their shadow with everybody expecting her to be the next version of them. That's got to be hard on a kid. So a lot of her character differences, I think, get explained by that. It makes her character, I think, more interesting. I don't know if the books really delved deep enough into a lot of what feeds her psyche, if you will. Did she fulfill the role that the world put her in? Yes and no. I don't think she did it with the flair of her parents. She had an impact. She played a pivotal role in the skirmishes that she was involved in. But ultimately, did she make a huge impact? I don't know if I'd say she made a huge impact. I'd say she made an impact, which drove things in the right direction for Earth. Um, she's impactful as a person for her compassion to other beings, other people, other aliens as well. Because that's the other thing. Bear in mind, she's half human and half Zentrani, so that throws a lot on her shoulders. And if you go into the books, you got to throw Zan into that, the creepy uncle. So I think the deck was stacked against her, not with her or for her. I like her character,
And
but
just,
she
do you think did they need the name Sterling? Could they have gone a different route when just made her just a,
if it would have for an explanation of her behavior, it would have had to have been somebody or somebody's or parents that would have had to have given her reason to act the way she acted.
good point.
She could have just been a survivor from the reign of death.
Okay.
So I don't think they really could have put her in the middle of a bigger storm of hell psychologically.
Okay. I like the abandonment angle because it would really attribute the behavior. So
Think about it. That even though she was around family, so or adopted family, it wasn't her parents, and she's left at a very young age. And if you think about the state of the world at that time that she grew up in, I mean, what kid wouldn't want to have their parents around for that security? So her security blanket that were her parents were just ripped away, in a sense, from her perspective. So yeah, I don't think any other hair or any other parent would have really fit the position for her. And that's of course she was the, Roy Falker's daughter.
Never know.
Blonde hair.
Okay,
That's
guys.
all I'm saying.
Guys, does Dana Sterling deserve the name Sterling?
Look, I agree with pretty much everything that Brian said. That kind of sums up a lot of what I was thinking. But I mean, yeah, I mean that you would have had to have her as a Sterling for her not just to explain her behavior, but to almost to excuse it a lot of the time. Or if she was let's say some love child of Roy Fokker, alternatively, that could have been another way to explain it. But a lot of what she was able to get away with, she would have had to have that, let's say that name, that lineage, or whatever. As far as, let's say, visually, it would have made more sense, at least from a visual perspective, to have Nova as the Sterling daughter, especially with the same voice actress. But that's just
Right.
from a visual perspective. But storytelling wise, yeah, I think she had to be a Sterling to make it work.
Okay.
Oh.
The Nova Satori thing, I really never thought about. That's pretty interesting. Yeah.
I don't know. I thought it's quite obvious, from the way I see it. The hair, the look, and the voice. The fact that they use the same voice as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got that. So, okay, Team Mick, does the Sterling legacy work, or could you have just gone a different way?
All right, Henry is going to give an answer. I also just want to let you know, probably going to be our last answer for the night. We're probably going to have to sign off on this pretty soon.
Sorry.
But I want to just let you know that. All right, Henry, what's your answer?
I agree a lot with Brian that the reason she's the way she is is because her parents are just so important, and having them just leave could add a lot to her. But I'm going to answer more of being a Sterling problem because Brian basically wrapped the first part of it up. Sorry, Brian. Anyways,
Hey,
I think
we're all equals in this debate pool, so.
Anyways, as I was saying, I think she does have to be a Sterling because, as you see in Macross, they're very different than Rick and Lisa. Because Max and Miria, they're more like getting the job done. Because if you think about it, Miria didn't really take time to plan how she was going to get Max. She just showed up with the knife. She does what she does and she does it quickly. Well, Dana
Very good, yeah.
He's a lot less like that because there's friction because they left her and she doesn't exactly follow that representation. Not everyone's going to grow up to be like the next Rick Hunter or Captain Global or something. She was just kind of thrown into that scenario. And she's not like her parents. She's different. And that's what I think Master leans towards with her character.
That's awesome. And two things. I know you guys got to go. Two things. The questions that I'm reading now, I'm going to post them on the pages. I would really love to see Henry's insights on the rest of the questions.
Okay.
If you allow him to answer. So
yeah, absolutely.
Next week I'm gonna post all the rest of the questions, and I'd love to hear your take. And before you go, it was part of what I wanted to do afterwards. as I mentioned earlier, Henry wrote an essay regarding the Robotech Masters for school, and we'd be honored if you'd read it for us to close out your night.
Oh, thank you. All right, are you ready, Henry?
Yeah. So it's called Why Robotech Southern Cross is Necessary to the Story of Robotech.
A little louder so they can hear. Okay.
Okay. Robotech Southern Cross is necessary to the story of Robotech because it introduces the Masters, explains the importance of protoculture, and explains the Invid and why they're on Earth. First off, Southern Cross introduces the Masters. Sora is a Robotech Master who is important to the story. Also, the Masters made these things try you. The Masters also explain more about the Invid, belongs to both New Generation and Sentinels. And this is a bit of my opinion. The Masters are awesome. Secondly, Southern Cross also explains the importance of the Flower of Life and protoculture. The Flower of Life is a key part to New Generation, and protoculture is used throughout all generations. Southern Cross also explains why all the aliens want the Flower of Life or protoculture. Lastly, the Southern Cross explains who the Invid are and why they're on Earth. The Invid are the main antagonists for New Generation and the Sentinels. So Southern Cross shows a good job that like the Invid are bad. They're not good. Which is very important to know for New Generation. So yeah, Robotech Southern Cross is essential to the story of Robotech. It accomplishes so much. It introduces the Masters, explains the importance of permaculture and the Flower of Life, and sets up the Invid, who are the enemy for the New Generation of the Sentinels. Plus, Southern Cross is awesome and fun to watch.
Bravo, my friend. Very nice. Very, very nice. And well put, eloquent. That is what Robotech fandom should be. Not complicating themselves, straight to the point, honest, and I love the passion. And I really hope you enjoy those books that we're going to be sending you. And again, I'm going to post the rest of the God, you really hit me, the passion behind your words. And it's just a testament of what Robotech fandom should be, because we're here to enjoy it, we're here to discuss it. We don't all have to like it the same, but as long as we enjoy it, that's a community. And thank you both, to you, Chris, to you, Henry, for really hitting the exclamation point on that. And I'm good. Like I said, I'm going to post the rest of the questions next week on the pages, and I'm going to love hearing your takes on them. So,
all right, we'll do them, right?
Thank you.
I will.
Thank you for being part of this. And, thank you again. And you'll see the recording of our next live event, because it's going to be another one of those where the fans decide, as I'm going to say for now. But thank you again, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, John. And I'm sorry we have to run. Everyone have a great night. Enjoy the rest of the night. I can't wait to watch the rest of the recording.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Have a good one.
Have a good one.
Bye, Henry.
If I had a drink, Henry, I'd toast to you.
I will.
All right. Awesome moment. That there is the Robotech spirit. But oh man. Donald Welch, what do you think of Dana Sterling? Did it work, her being the child of Max and Miria? Or could you have gone just as Gene Smith?
Well, yeah, it works out as daughter Maximiria. Of course, she could have had a last name like Cushing, as her.
Yeah.
But yeah, it works.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I like I said, as moderator, I got to throw the curveballs to you guys, and because it makes for an interesting discussion. So, but awesome. Ian.
Oh wow. After Henry's take there, it's like, God, that is such a tough act to follow. And he actually touched on a few things that I was going to say about Dana. I again, my feelings about Dana, like the rest of the Masters segment, is complicated. When I first saw her, I kind of felt like, especially with the way that the voice actress played her, I thought she was a little annoying. There was nothing outside to me at that point, at the time. There was nothing aside from the name Sterling, that would direct, and that one episode, Dana's story, which was really just a clip episode, to establish, like, this is the character of this is Maximilia's daughter. But there was nothing really beyond that, outside that could have, like, firmly connected her to it. I mean, she had different hair color. She didn't act at anything at all like her parents did. She didn't even have that ace pilot, those ace pilot skills that both her parents had. And you think would have, like, been carried over to her. She just did not strike me as that kind of a person. And again, they didn't make much of her mixed Zentradi heritage, other than maybe a few things about her, maybe being sensitive to the protoculture and having a kinship with, feeling a sense of kinship with some of the masters, especially Zor. And yeah, it just didn't feel like it held together. I think, though, again, much like the rest of the Masters saga, I think there was potential there. As Brian brought up, she does probably have some unresolved abandonment issues regarding her parents, which I think was kind of explored a little bit in End of the Circle, but not much. In my own headcanon, I like to think, like, in my own Robotech stories, she is, on the SDF4 with her parents and her sister, as a way of trying to reconcile with them, and her abandonment issues, and work through those. So I think the potential is there with that for her character. Later on, though, as I got older and stuff, I did realize, as Brian put it, is that, and as also as Henry mentioned too, is that one thing I learned growing up is that as much as you may take after your parents, you are not your parents. You are your own individual. And I think that Dana is a good example of making the case for that she is her own person, and is I think maybe she kind of feels it's a little unfair to be living under the shadow of her, and she wants to differentiate herself from them, which is, I think, why is part of the reason why she does what she does and acts the way she does. And I think, again, later stories by other authors, I think, have gone a lot further into making her a more relatable, more likable character, and that's to their credit. So, Dana was a character that I think kind of grew on me over time, and I think with a good story, you can make her into a protagonist that you can root for and that you can relate to. So yeah, those are my feelings about her. Is that it took her a while for her to grow on me, really.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I like you really hit on the abandonment angle, which I've always thought as well. So, so kind of there's almost a justification to her behavior. So, Mara, with Dana Sterling hanging behind you.
Yeah, and my ferret is off to the side. I'm keeping one eyeball on him as I talk because he's getting into everything.
Okay.
But I think seeing how different she is from her parents makes it interesting storytelling. I do think, however, she could have been someone completely different. Like, in the books, Emerson is like an uncle guardian to her as well as Bowie. So I think it could have simply been something like that, and or as an orphan, whatever, and it would work just as fine. So yeah, she could have been someone else.
Wow. Okay. I wasn't expecting that, but yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You're on that. Mr. Jason.
Hey, how's it going? Once again, feel like I have the spotlight on me. I wish I had time to prepare solid answers, but I think Dana is deserving of the surname Sterling, but at the same time, she could be a completely different character. Let's see. Wow. Okay. How should I put this? I think that she has a number of the qualities of her parents. I think that she is a very capable fighter, just like Max and Miria. I think she knows how to improvise, adapt, overcome, just like Max and Miria. Even if she's not a pilot, but well, a hover tank pilot, not a Veritech fighter pilot, but even so, I think that she I think she has inherited a lot from Max and Miria. That is that they are her parents, and yes, it is canon that they are, but oh boy, I am really botching this.
No, not at all.
After
Just
that,
speak,
after that,
speak from the gut, man.
um, thank you, JT. But like what others are saying, after Henry's reading of his essay, wow, I'm like, how do you top that? Um, but yeah, I think in many ways she is deserving of the surname of Sterling. But just to kind of shift gears for a little bit, just go towards the abandonment issues that she's probably dealing with. There are so many times where I just wanted to go into the novels or into the TV and just give her a huge hug and just say, "You're gonna be all right, kid. You're strong. You're gonna get through this." And I really think you're gonna see your parents, Max and Mary, again someday. Um, what else? What else was I gonna say? But yeah, because I know she was bullied in the books, and I was bullied growing up. I mean, not everyone can say this, but I actually made peace with my aggressors at some point. I'm cool with them now, but yeah. I do think she is worthy of the name Sterling. And in my story, that's all of her qualities are probably the reason why Roy Hunter has the hots for her. Even though
Coming
there's like a
soon.
10-year age difference.
It's 2000. It'll be 2050 or 60 by that time. So,
True.
but awesome take, man. And it shows the power of Robotech. Robotech, you can identify with its characters in so many different ways, and it allows healing in a lot of cases too. So, all right, with the exit of Chris and Henry, I kind of switched up the boxes. So if I'm not doing it in the order of the last question, I apologize. I have Andrew next.
I think that she really could have been played a Jane Doe, because especially because given the constraints of the footage that they had to work around, they didn't have a coherent story. She at least had some character development, and then we have to remember that these were teenagers who grew up in a third world situation. And you know, like even at our academies, I know a lot of West Pointers and Air Force Academiers, and you know, some of their teenagers when they start out and they do some dumb stuff because they're teenagers as well as trainees and soldiers, and so she had a lot going for her. But I think the character itself could have been, she could have been a Jane Doe,
Yeah.
and didn't necessarily.
Yeah. When I thought about the question, it was like, it's such a shift from her parents that yeah, you could have just made her anybody. But you know, I think I'd like to think that when Carl saw the whole baby thing with Max and Mary, he figured that's the connection. That's how I connect the story. So the offspring. So, but good take, Andrew. Chris,
Good
Dana
points, Andrew.
Sterling.
For me, when it comes to Dana, like I'm okay with her being a Sterling. I like that kind of connection between the two generations. That being said, I do agree that with the inconsistencies and that, I wish they could have touched on a few things here and there. I wasn't so much pushed by the abandonment issue area more than I was more focused on the idea that everyone's always throwing at her like, you're the daughter of Max and Miri. You should be setting an example. And there you are out there causing a bar fight and all that. And you always have this. I always felt this thing with Dana. It's just like, can everyone stop comparing me to my parents? I am not them. I am my own person. It's one of those things where I feel like that she's always trying to be her own girl in this age, and it's always been my head canon that she went as far to dye her own hair just to differentiate herself from her parents that way.
Yeah. See, that's another moment that makes you think. Yeah, in expanded universe and stories. Um, Damn, man, you guys are coming up with some real good ideas that making me think. So, all right, awesome, Mr. Hemingway, with Dana on your right.
So there you go. Other side. Yes, it's exactly what you said though. It's what Carl had to work with. It was the couple that had a baby in the first generation and being he called it the second generation. This is their second generation here, and so it really had to be. I feel it really had to be Sterling. It had to be Max and Miria's daughter to make it work out, to make that connection for the next generation.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I mean, what I was saying earlier, I think I'd like to think that when he saw the baby, he said, "That's what we're going to go with this next footage." So,
yeah,
so awesome. Mr. Gomez.
Yeah, I think her character makes sense. She's living without the parents that left her, that disappeared, and she's trying to figure it out. So yeah, the character, makes sense, and it tracks that she's, could be the daughter of Max and Miria. So yeah, I'm into it.
Okay. The inconsistent, the departure from what her parents were makes her a more believable character. So
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
rebellious youth, the rebellious girl. Brian T says, as a 12 or 13-year-old, while watching for the first time, my perspective of her was that she was impetuous and volatile. She was no leader. And even though she was a legendary character, hold on. She was a legendary character. She seemed a disappointment to me, again, compared to the Macross cast. You can redefine her after the fact, but for the first run through she was a difficult person to love. Hey, I love it. I love the takes. We're here to expose art. Nobody has to agree with everybody, and that's the beauty of these discussions. So thanks, Brian. Mr. Griffiths, Dana Sterling, yay or nay?
I think she can live up to her parents' reputation, but people have to. But at first, she doesn't because of the way she acts. Because no other person I know of in the military, and I've known military people, they wouldn't go start a bar fight, be sentenced to 1 day in the brig, then get out and be given a command of a squadron. The only reason she was doing that was because of her parents' legacy. And yeah, I kind of think it is a little bit of both hands. She was abandoned by Max and Miria as a young child that decided to leave her was on Earth with most of Zentradi dying off because of the issues with the micronization project. Instead of taking her with him to Creo, and then she has all this pressure piled on her shoulders constantly. You are the daughter of a legendary couple, two legendary Robotech fighters, Max and Miria Sterling. Why are you not able to live up to their legacy and match what they did? People don't understand she didn't have that to learn from. Her parents learned from how to fight like they did and stuff. What she learned it at Academy of the Southern Cross. She did the best she could with what she had at the time.
It parallels the Master Saga itself. They had to work with what they had too. I love it, man. That passion. All right. To close out this question, Dana Sterling. Dana Sterling is the one character in Robotech I identify with the most because of the abandonment issues. So her behavior, totally justified. And the expanded universe, it does touch upon Max's guilt over leaving her. They're an end of the circle. There's a moment where he just regrets he goes through this a huge amount of regret for what had happened to her during his absence. So, but could it, I'm kind of on board that it works with the name Sterling, but I think it could have worked with it be just just a Jane Doe, as I believe Andrew said. So yeah, I think it works both ways. So all right, nice stuff. Let's keep rolling. All right, so. And our next question, with the Robotech Defense Force having left Earth in search of the Robotech Masters, it's the Army of the Southern Cross that steps up as the planet's primary defense. To share here. And with that Army of the Southern Cross, it is defined by youth, cadets and fresh officers, like Marie Crystal, Boyd Grant, who is himself the offspring of, not directly from the Macross saga, indirectly, because Vince Grant is Claudia's sister. He is the son of Vince and Jean Grant, who are also on the SCF-3. You've got Nova Zatori, Angelo Dante, Sean Phillips, Louis Nichols. All of this is balanced out against veterans like Alan Fredericks, General Emerson, and Ralph Emerson, and Anatole Leonard. Now, from this Earth-based side of the Master Saga, which of the supporting characters stood out to you? And does the younger generation is obvious because of what happened to Earth in the Macross saga. So, which one stood out to you, and was it a strong supporting cast for Dana in terms of on the Earth side? Mr. Brian D.
You know what? That's a tough one because they all kind of hold their own individually. Shoot.
Or just the one that stood out to you,
You know what? It's a toss up between Angelo and oh God. Um I'm drawing a blank on that's not was it Miria? Mary.
Nova?
Marie Nova, yeah.
Nova Satori? Okay.
Nova Story, thank you.
Marie Crystal or Nova Satori, Brian?
No, I'm saying Miria, but Nova Satori was the one who kind of stood out more for me over Mirror Crystal. Mirror Crystal's character felt a little two-dimensional for me, so she didn't stand out as much. I don't think they gave her enough three-dimensionality in what she did. But Nova Satori seemed to have a little bit more development behind her. Angelo was just, I mean, he's the lunk of the Masters. I mean, honestly.
And remember, Marie Crystal is the winner of the Golden Globe for Best Strike. She gets a mean slap.
Yeah, just my opinion. I mean,
no, absolutely no.
Her screen time wasn't dynamic enough for me. It was a lot of point, shoot, crash, get saved. Oh, I'm embarrassed, and not enough of depth to it. So,
okay,
Nova Story. She had a little bit more going on for background and circumstances that she found herself in, and how she handled it. Oh, quick note: Dana was started off at 16 and ended at 17 in Masters, so quite young.
Yeah.
And Max was 19 at the start of Macross.
So,
Perspective. Yeah.
Geith, who from the Army of the Southern Cross stood out to you?
There's a few of them. Marie Crystal definitely was one of them. I think the whole Master Saga could have been told from the perspective of Marie as a more traditional protagonist. Could have easily been told with her as the main character. It would have been a bit more, I don't know, normal, or a bit more straightforward. But then again, but at the same time, I like the fact that they left her as a background character who could have easily been the protagonist. Nova stood out, but I think they needed to develop her more, give her more stories. We needed to see a bit more of her character. I definitely liked some of the stuff they did with Nova in the, let's say, in the extended universe. But the other two that stood out would have been Angelo. I mean, his perspective would have been an interesting one to see more of. He's obviously more qualified than Dana or Sean Phillips to lead the 15th Squadron, yet he's there as the number two guy to both of them. The fact that he manages to sort of pull it off without and keep his cool for the most part was interesting. Leonard was the other one that stood out for me. Again, I would have liked to have seen more about Leonard. I wasn't too keen on some of the extended universe background they gave to him. Some elements of it, some elements not so much. I think a lot of the let's say the religious fundamentalism side of things they gave to Leonard, that I don't know, I wasn't too keen on that, but I liked a lot of the politicking behind the let's say the schemes, the deviousness, things like that. I think that definitely worked. But yeah, that's kind of my take.
Donald, which Army of the Southern Cross character stood out to you?
Well, Angelo Dante, he's like the real power because he had to babysit all the smaller ones. And Nova's story, oh, she was going to get gray hairs all because of Dana.
Yeah, perfect. Quite the antagonist for the main character. So, awesome, great take, Maura. I think I know where this one's going with Maura.
Yeah, you know what I'm gonna say. It's Nova, and I'm not even sure I can explain why she's my favorite. I think there's definitely more to her underneath the surface. Like one of my favorite scenes is near the end when they're in the mounds and Bowie's saying, well, I thought this person was my friend. She goes, I'm your friend. Like she just spits it out, and I think she truly believes she's like their friend, but I think she's just more complex than we actually get to see. But I also love Zor. Zor was one of my favorite characters, and I once made this top 10 T-shirt of Zor quotes that I have to try and find a picture of because
oh, you got to,
crazy.
Yeah, you got to share that one.
Funny. And actually, I got to show it to the actor who did Zor's voice. So I have a picture of him with my shirt somewhere. So I'll dig it up next time.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. Send it. I'll put it. I'll give it a post on all the pages.
I was really young though. I was like, oh my God, I look so different.
No worries. Trust me. You wouldn't recognize me when I was like 12, 13 or stuff like that. So, all right. Jason.
Oh, hello. Gee, in the spotlight yet again. Okay, let's see if I can answer the question better this time around. Characters that stood out. Well, there was a few of them. Rolf Emerson. I would much rather be under his command or Henry Global's command than, let's say, someone like Anatole Leonard. He was compassionate, charismatic. He cared about his men. And with that being said, now I'm going to go over to Anatole Leonard. This is the guy that built the foundation of the Army of the Southern Cross, and now he's just sending wave after wave of men to their deaths. I'm like, no, you're supposed to conserve your men whenever possible. Now you're just sending these human wave attacks against the masters, and they're just getting mowed down. No, I don't care what Wyatt Moran says. Go behind his back like you've done in the past. Hold off. Come up with a valid plan of attack before you just go in willy-nilly. That is not what a good commanding officer does. Sorry, getting a little passionate there, but every time I see the Masters episodes, I'm like, Jesus Christ, come on, man. You're a general, for Christ's sake. Don't send these men to their deaths. They're dying for no reason, and you are just getting rid of swaths of potentially some of your best men, and they're not coming back. Death is permanent. What, you're just gonna what are you gonna do? Start a draft, start a conscription, and send more off to their death? Just pull a Vladimir Putin, if you will. Sorry for getting political. Sorry. Okay, enough on Leonard, that SOB. Angelo Dante. Angelo Dante is someone I would want in my corner. He is someone I would want in my corner. If I go down fighting, I want him to be the person I tag to take my place. In my story, and sorry to bring up my story once again, any TMNT fans here? He is the all right, Chris. He is the Casey Jones to Roy Hunter's Raphael, if you know what I mean. They eventually get into scraps, but despite all the black eyes and bloody noses, they look at each other, exchange a few mean words, but then just laugh it off before hitting the bars.
That is a good comparison. That is a good comparison.
Very nice analogy. So,
and who else? Let's see. Bowie likes music, and I like music, so there's that. Okay, let's see. I went through Rolf, went through Anatole, went through Bowie, went through Angelo. I guess that's it. I guess Sean and Roy would go girl chasing from time to time. But unless I have anything else to say, at some point as the conversation goes on, I think at the moment that's it for me. But
okay.
And you could also say Zor because of his connection to the Masters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you ever run into a gatekeeper of the Robotech fandom, let them know what you think about Leonard, and please take screenshots of the conversation. That's
I will do what I can, but I just got a text, and in the Japanese version, I guess his actions were a little more understandable. And I guess when Wyatt Moran was putting all this pressure on him to get the job done, I could probably see why he might crack under pressure from time to time and say, screw it, human wave attack. But other than that, I'm like, come on, man. This is how you got to where you are? For Christ's sake, man. Sorry for the volume.
No, awesome
Sometimes I
with
get
the
passionate.
passion and awesome on the take. So, Andrew, who resonated from the Southern Cross?
In my first walkthrough, I liked Marie strictly because she was a pilot and I like aviation. But as an adult, Dante is more my style because he's the senior enlisted guy in the unit, and he's got two immature officers that he has to mentor back to back, and that's why he starts out a little gruff, and then he mellows out over the course of the season, and he doesn't kill Dana or Sean. So
okay, Mr. England.
I have three personal favorites. The first being Rolf Anderson. One of my favorite scenes in one of the opening episodes is when he basically won't do an opening strike against the Masters, and one of his men is just like, come on, they attacked our base and destroyed our men. And he just goes, yeah, but how do we know our men didn't shoot first? And my other favorite characters would definitely be Angelo Dante, who I consider to be the most level-headed of the 15th Squadron. And I do agree with some of the members. Where it's just like, how are you not leading us instead of everyone else? And it's like I wish I would. I wish I would. And then of course I gotta love Nova Centauri. I always got the impression that she and Dana were childhood friends, and then they just sort of had a split and had a rift at some point, because there always seemed to be like this unspoken thing between the two of them, and you got to see them have a few sit downs every so often, and it's just like, okay, you guys have a good history, but you can tell that they're just bashing heads at each other every so often.
Okay. Wow, you guys are really passionate about your characters. It's so awesome. I'm watching.
the
I'm
backbone of the
watching the
franchise.
expressions. So, Mark, who was your Southern Cross person besides Dana?
He's asleep right now. He's
What's that?
like,
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, all right. Angelo Dante really stood out as a good character. He was
he loves the warmth to that.
energetic and alive. It was a really good character there. But Nova Satori was very complex. It was a deeper, just a richer character as well. So it's hard to say between the two. One that stood out a lot though would be Anatole Leonard, because he was just his more so in the novels, I guess, which I've recently just finished. I just finished the second generation series. I'm on Before the Infinite Storm right now. And special shout out to you, JT, because many years ago, I saw the original series in junior high and high school and everything, and I collected all the novels. And I never read them. I stuck them away like part of the collection. It was when I first came across your podcast of the McKinney Project that I started listening to, like, wow, this sounds really great. This is cool. I'm missing out here. So I went back and I started reading them. So that's where I'm at right now. But in the novels, though, Anatole Leonard really, like from the Master's Gambit, where he's actually with Zentradi at some point in there, but he turns into such a xenophobe, and he's all over the place. It's a little wacky sometimes. So he stands out as a complex character too, because he's really just he has a want to protect the Earth, but he also has he's just a complex character. So it's a lot going on there for him too. So it's hard to say. I mean, Angelo Dante is fun, but then Nova Satori and then Anatole Leonard are very complex too. So they're rich characters. So it's hard between the two of those, it's hard for me to pick.
Okay. Oh, awesome. And thank you. The Kitty Project brings a lot of memories, along with the one before, the Protoculture times. And
oh yeah,
with these live events, it's kind of like being back in the fray, and we'll see what the future brings in terms of maybe a return to, something like that. So, but thank you. I really appreciate the kind words.
Good points, Mark.
Ian.
Okay, well, one thing I do like about the Masters is that it does have a very rich supporting cast of characters, each of them fully fleshed out, fully realized in their own way. I'll just go down the list because it's hard for me to pick out a favorite, but you've got Angelo Dante, who is the veteran, being the oldest, and also kind of the big brother figure, which is kind of cool. You have Sean Phillips, who is the resident Lothario in Casanova and Ladies' Man and all that. So, you've got that going on. You've got Bowie, who is Dana's childhood friend and music lover and just hopeless romantic and just really, probably would normally never have would never have been in the Southern Cross Army, were it not for his parents, and the similar situation they has with Dana is that both their parents went out into space and kind of left them there. So they share that the abandonment issue, and the fact that he falls in love with Musica, which continues that trend throughout Robotech of human characters falling in love with aliens. So you've got that. You have Marie Crystal, who is like the friendly rival to Dana, And I kind of agree that, yeah, she probably didn't get enough character development, screen time. I don't think that started happening until the end when she met Dennis Brown and kind of had, you had the beginnings of that relationship. Nova Satori, who is tough and no nonsense, is the mirror opposite of who Dana is, and provides a basis for that and more antagonistic relationship. At the same time, she's also like a character that has some uh, deep aspects to her. Leonard, oh my God, Leonard. I won't say, I think everything has already been said, although I think there's a reason why he continues to be a compelling character within the Robotech saga. Just go and read in the Robotech reference guide, look for the multi-part essay, The Beatification of Blessed Saint Leonard. That is excellent. I recommend anybody go back and read that for an interesting take on him. And the one last but certainly not least, I am surprised no one has brought him up yet, is Louis Nichols, who is become, to me, I think, ended up being the breakout character of that segment of the show, with everything that he's been involved in. If you go and, well, we'll talk about expanded media later, but he ended up being like a very significant character in the expanded universe and other media and stuff. And I think there's a reason too that he ended like striking a chord with some fans, and why he did and why he had that, why he took off the way he did. But yeah, those are all, they're all great characters in their own right. I'd say the only weak link is maybe Rolf Emerson, because he's just the generic, to me, he just strikes out the generic, and uncle, I'm very concerned, and all this stuff. I don't remember much about him other than that. But the other ones, yeah, I think that they're all, there's a reason why fans love them and why they're all so well remembered today.
Damn, the put down of Emerson. But hey, I like it. I like it because we all
Not
got
bad.
our opinions. So, Brian T. Wright. The Zentradi Rebellion and Before the Invent Storm, Jack McKinney books really fresh out the background character motivations. Without those books, I really could have cared less about Nova Satori, but reading about her convincing Jonathan Wolf, to start an Earth Resistance really made her more interesting to me. It's McKinney that made me care about a lot of the secondary people. 100% true. 100% true. And Nova Satori has one of the more interesting story arcs in the novels. You only get a tease of it, but she becomes like this charismatic preacher in the end. And hopefully it's a side story that it'll be touched upon again. So, Santiago.
Zor Prime. Come on, he's the linchpin for the whole series. He sends the SDF-1 to Earth, and he finds the protoculture, makes the protoculture matrix, hooks up with the Regis. Yeah, he's definitely the most interesting side character in that run for me.
True. Now Zor Prime is a clone, but he's got all the memories, so he knows everything that happened.
The clone version. I mean,
you
even get his iteration in the Sentinels with Rem, so like that character is kind of everywhere. A version of that character is everywhere.
And then in End of the Circle, somehow the combination of Rem and Minmay bring the original Zor.
Right.
It's crazy.
Something like that. Yeah.
So,
which with that new comic book series they came out with, where it's kind of like the SDF-3 comes back as the SDF-1. You're like, okay, you can kind of see that. Like that could be like after End of the Circle, and that's kind of the iteration that happens afterwards.
Okay. Mr. Lewis.
Yeah, I think some of the best supporting characters, I think, from the Master Saga, one I'd have to say is Rolf Emerson, because I like the way he kind of stands up for his men. He kind of tries to hold Leonard back. You can always tell from there's a difference of opinion from him. Leonard doesn't value Emerson as well as he should. I think in the end, that's what caused Leonard's downfall. I hate the way he sacrificed Emerson, ordering him to create Moonbase Alice and then just abandon him. I also kind of think Nova Centauri, what others are saying, I think there's some history there between her and Dana. Because the way she's always on Dana's case, like trying to make Dana be the best that she can be. As others saying, I would not want to work for General Leonard. He has no respect or care for his men. All about to him, it is how he can benefit from himself, make himself the most important person left on Earth after the Trio expedition has left.
Man, Lewis, in a Robotech fight, I definitely want you watching my back, man. So, okay, wow, so many takes. Mark had to drop, so but would love to. Gotta have him back for more discussions. But okay, to close out this, I'm just gonna say a few things, and they're probably gonna be controversial to you. Angelo Dante, and I'm going with the expanded universe as well. Angelo Dante, happiest ending in Robotech. The rest are ambiguous. His is the happiest ending. Marie Crystal, I think she could best Max Sterling in combat. That's what I'm gonna say. And Anatole Leonard, for many reasons, greatest Robotech character ever. Those can be discussions for another day. So, all right. So I'm going to combine questions. Hold on. 5, 6, and 7, because they really deal no, 5, I'm getting all confused. Questions 5 and 6, because they deal with the same thing, and those are the antagonists, the Robotech Masters. Did they live up? Were they believable as did they live up to being, did you believe them as being the that the Zentradi were subordinate to them? Did you think of their community of clones as an army or more as a civilization? And with Zor Prime, did is he the most tragic hero in Robotech? And what were your thoughts on his sacrifice at the what's it called, Final Nightmare, which is the last episode in the Master Saga? So this time I'm gonna go in reverse. So Lewis, you start us off.
I think the Masters, they don't live up to all the hype. I feel like the Zentradi were more afraid of Doza than they were the Masters, because we really didn't get to see them do much in the Master Saga. They mostly stood in their command ship, complained over the fact that their protoculture was being contaminated by the flower of life, and then they decided to sacrifice clones left and right as they got more onto the seas, as they got contact with humans. I think Zor Prime, he was kind of a sad character. He sacrificed his life as Zor to ensure that the Robotech Masters didn't get their hands on protoculture. But in the end, all he did was cause the Invid to appear on Earth much quicker and cause the new generation and the death of all those ones who tried to take back the Earth, like by destroying the flower of life like she thought he was going to do. So all he did was spread it over the country.
Okay. All right, Santiago.
Yeah, Robotech Masters are cool. I like them as antagonists for the show, and I mean they are very focused on getting the protoculture matrix back, and I know that was a little repetitious, I guess, but yeah, it was cool. I like them.
Okay. What did you think of Zor's Prime sacrifice at the end?
Oh, that was cool. Yeah, I really liked it at the end of it, and that really sets up the next part of the story, really well. So that, I mean, even though it's separate animation, it really kind of worked.
Yeah, the connection was good. For transparency and correction, Final Nightmare was not the final episode of the Master Saga. It was Catastrophe. Too much reading the Robotech novels and seeing Final Nightmare. So, so sorry about that.
I
Thank
gotcha.
you. um, Guys,
I, I thought the Robotech Masters were certainly the weakest link as far as villains go. They were dull. They were dull. But not very convincing that they're controlling the whole Zentradi army, that there's all subordinate to them. In some way, I would have liked to have seen the Dolza plot against the Masters take fruition. I know that's not going to happen the way things ended, but that seems like a more logical conclusion to the Masters in an alternate universe. As for Zor, the let's say his anger towards the Masters uh, wasn't that well explained in the animated series. I thought it, like many things with the Masters, it just felt a bit clunky. You know, his the whole thing that that he's sent over to it becomes part of the Earth forces, and I don't know, it was a bit clunky. It seemed to flow a bit better, the whole Zor story in the original Japanese animation. But I think that's a symptom of the Masters. It was one of the ones that translated worst from the original Japanese to Robotech. Yeah, I mean his sacrifice at the end. Yeah, that was well intentioned and everything. It was nice how it set up the next saga. Yeah, that part of it works.
okay. Ian.
Yeah, I'm probably going to go out on a limb here and say that I actually liked the Masters. Maybe not so much as how they were, as how they worked in the show itself, but as like their civilization and how it worked and their overall look. I like that. My first impression of them when I saw them is that, and this is going to be a deep cut for some of you who may know about this show, but they reminded me an awful lot of the kind of aliens that you'd see in any given episode of Space 1999. If you remember what that show was like, and you saw like some of the aliens that the crew of Moonbase Alpha would encounter in a given week, they kind of looked like that. Long hair, flowing robes, mutton chops, very 1970s, look at what an alien civilization in space would look like. I like that. I like the whole weird Greco-Roman, influence look of their ships and their mecha. I like the bioroids. I think the bioroids are cool. And I like that weird voice that some of them have, that really electronically augmented voice that some of them speak in, especially like the clones and the subordinates. That's to me, that's up there with the original Cylons from Battlestar Galactica. I think that's cool. So it's more for me. It's more vibes with them. I could kind of see like I could kind of see that these guys were like had with the Zentradi had like commanded a good portion of the galaxy before it all came apart for them when their protoculture reserves became exhausted. So I'm more, I guess I like more of the idea of what the Masters kind of represented more than what they actually were in the show. And I think that I think it was even like referenced in the Palladium books that they took a lot of their clones with them. They didn't care about, they left the regular Tyrolians back on Tyrol. They didn't care about them. It's a pretty stinging commentary about like how elites will, just think of the people under them as like expendable, and which is what the Masters ultimately were like with their clones. They just everything was expendable to them in the service of getting the protoculture back, for so they could pursue their own ends. Everybody else be damned. um the society, the triumvirates. I like that whole three as one thing. That was kind of a cool concept. As far as Zor goes, I am with Gaith on this. I think it would have had more resonance if the show had done a better job of explaining exactly who he was, because I don't think it was explained very well. It was a little confusing, and again, that is something that I kind of owe to the translation from the Japanese to the series, and Masek having to work with what he had. Because in the original Southern Cross, Zor was actually a human pilot that had been abducted at an earlier point before the show started, and had become made into a Bioroid pilot, and was slowly recovering his memories from before. And you kind of see that in the flashbacks that he has, but again, it's all handled in a very clunky, incoherent kind of way. And the way it went about handling and the way that went, it didn't quite make sense. It didn't feel organic. And still, I think that you can see that elements there of that tragic figure whose mind had been messed with by the masters, regardless of circumstances. Someone whose mind and memories had been violated and had been made to do horrible things in the service of the masters and wanted revenge. And I think that part at least worked, but not so much the rest of it.
Okay.
Mhm.
No, to me, it's like, with again, something throughout this conversation, the word disjointed has been used, or some variation of the word. And yeah, when you really look at it, I mean, as a kid, you're kind of, okay, it doesn't work, and it doesn't kind of connect. But then as you're older, all I could say is, I'm glad for the expanded universe. So, Chris England.
When it comes to the Masters, like, I love their designs, I love the culture, and even the Bioroids I find absolutely amazing. And the thing I do like is the expectation subversion about them, that they are physically exhausted due to the depletion of protoculture. Like in another life, had their protoculture stuff been at full, they would have overpowered the earth and everything. So the idea that the writers instead went with, look, they're desperate. They need that the last flowers of life that are in the universe here on Earth to replenish everything. And when it comes to Zor Prime, yeah, I do consider him a very tragic character. I also agree with you guys over the inconsistencies that came from the productions again, as usual. And it all comes down to the fact that, all right, he had good intentions for trying to destroy the flowers of life, but that's all it was, because at the end of the day, he inadvertently brought the infant to Earth.
Okay. Yeah. And one thing I do want to bring up, even though I combined these three questions, as I told Henry earlier, I'm going to put these questions up in their entirety. So if you have any more thoughts on them, I'm going to post them next week on the pages. So I'm just doing it kind of, the questions were kind of similar. So just for time's sake, I combined those three. But Andrew.
Oh, Chris kind of stole my thunder, but the Robotech Masters were in the late stage civilization phase, and they weren't very compelling. I think if the Southern Cross just held the defense long enough, they either could have won by attrition, or the Invid would have come and finished off everybody.
Very true. I like that. I like what you said there, because yeah, they were on their last ends because they were running out of protoculture. So in some alterverse, the Southern Cross wins. That'd be an interesting story to tell. So, Jason.
Hello again. Okay. even though I am more of a fan of the Zentradi and the Invid, I do have to say that I do like the Masters. I thought Carl Masek once again did a good job with what he had to work with. I just to piggyback off of some of you, I think they were desperate, and that's what made them good villains. They were willing to do whatever it took in order to uh, get the protoculture back. Let's see. I thought they did bridge I thought they did a good job bridging the Master Saga and the New Generation Saga together. For what it's worth, I I thought that they were compelling villains, and at the end of the day, I think that in many ways it did work. As
All
for
right.
as for Zor Prime, I thought he was a tragic character. Fell in love, realized that he had a job to finish, but at the end of the day, even though his intentions were good, he basically died in vain, and his efforts are what unfortunately brought the Invid to Earth.
He was the catalyst for what happened. So it's kind of that you see that moment, it's like especially in the expanded universe, and you're like, he just screwed us. So
Yeah, when I saw those spores flying everywhere, I was like, oh crap.
all right, awesome. Mara.
I thought the Masters worked as villains because I mean I saw them as these decrepit old men who were like trying any way they possibly could to hang on to their power or to keep power by manipulating and controlling the Zentradi, the clones, and as Ian said earlier, sacrificing them without even thinking, So I thought that worked. I thought Zor was a pretty tragic character. This is always my favorite pictures. I broke out my art one book. You see, like,
Oh,
am I on the right page? There we go. Right, like this is the end of the
yeah, Zor's
Masters.
tragic decision.
Yeah, I thought it was really tragic, and that always broke my heart when he, when he's sitting there thinking about what he's about to do, and then we know what happens in the end. So yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, very that sweet, awesome moment bringing the Art One book out, old school.
The Bible.
Donald, what'd you think of the Masters as the villains of the Masters of their namesake saga?
Yeah, it's very similar to those of the Axis, Mussolini and a weird mustache friend in Germany. Anything didn't go right, they got thrown away. And, it'd be interesting to have in a social studies class. I mean, what was the politics behind the Masters?
Yeah, their society and the good point.
You know, I'm just surprised they hadn't breaking out into a Three Caesars routine and poking each other in the eyes and smacking them. It's a pie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in the end, Zor had the final laugh. So, Brian T, I don't know if you had, I'm checking here. I don't know if you typed anything out, but if you wanted to chime in, please do regarding the Robotech Masters. There's an alternate world. This is what Brian T says. There's an alternate world out there where Chiron, high in the flower of life, executes every one of the masters. That would be a great multiverse story. I like your angle with thinking out of the box there. So awesome. That was awesome, dude. So Brian 3D. How do you see
Oh
the
boy. All right, so 3 questions, right? One, do I think the Masters were capable of controlling the Zentradi? Absolutely, in their day. If you think about how many motherships the Masters brought to Earth, every single one of them was almost 5 miles in length. Every single one of them was depleted in protoculture and never brought out the big guns and still gave Earth a hard time with their shields alone and their ability to peck off the smaller ships and the smaller vehicles. Yeah, absolutely. They would have destroyed the Centurion if they had ever turned around. Not to mention, who's to say that they didn't have a code, a signal that they were able to send out that would just shut these and Zentradi down the same way Britai shut down Chiron. I mean, that had to come from somewhere. That came from the Masters. So if Britai was shutting down Chiron, I'm sure the Masters had a similar function that they could do. Question about were the Masters a significant villain? One, they weren't actually the Masters, were they? They were more like the second in command because the original Masters were left on Tyrol, if I
Right,
remember
the
correctly.
elders.
The Elders, those were the real Masters. The Masters reminded me of more of old crusty aristocrats, governing, not not actual strategists, not actual military people. They needed to maintain their power, and without the protoculture, they couldn't do that. So their positions of power were kind of looking dim. Uh, so that's the way I looked at them. They were desperate. They were a desperate entity with a whole lot of resources at their fingertips that were unfortunately, by their standards, low in power. But now think about that for a second. If they were low in power and their biroids still, technically, in my opinion, their biroids whipped the Southern Cross's ass. As much as the Southern Cross was good for the 15th Squadron, look at every other squadron that got devastated. Look at all the ships that were destroyed. Yeah, no. The bioroids and the Masters weaponry made Southern Cross cry. Hands down. They got lucky. Um, as far as the most baddest character, I'm gonna say the elders, because the elders were told by the Masters, you don't have to come with us. You stay there in your I think there was an image or something. They looked like they were in geriatric treatment with IVs and everything. That's the way I always pictured them. So I think they were the saddest because they watched the Zentradi get destroyed. Their entire civilization, outside of what was left on Tyrol itself, went to Earth. Their entire war machine, political system that went there was pretty much decimated. Yeah, there were survivors, but they were decimated. And they just had to sit there. And in fact, if I remember correctly, in the storyline in the books, they attempted to leave Tyrol and get to Earth. Only to have a little surprise. So yeah, I would not have wanted to face the Masters at full power. I don't think anyone would have stood a chance against them at that point. So
All right.
I'd say that would be my take.
Okay. To close it out, I've always seen the Masters and by extension their civilization of clones, the results of addiction. They're all they're all emaciated, colorless, and really it was from years and years of feeding off the protoculture. Just my take. When it comes to Zor Prime, uh the how would you put it? Did I did he convince me? I've read the comic series Genesis, The Legend of Zor. After reading that, Zor Prime doesn't come off as a real, a strong character for me, and that's just my opinion. Obviously, the sacrifice he makes really dooms Earth. So I like that angle because it's the perfect setup. It's the perfect setup, and you really come to look at the Robotech stories, whether it's Macross Masters or New Generation. Is there really a truly happy ending to each? It's kind you can I make the argument that it can be ambiguous, even though Rick and Lisa are together. It's after all their friends are killed. Obviously in the Master Saga, it was a catastrophe. So it ended to set up the next. And then even though in New Generation, the Regis leaves, she wipes out almost the entire Earth Liberation Force. And then you have the SDF-3 never appearing. So but getting back to the Masters, uh I think they lived up. I like I said, I attribute it to their condition of being addicts to the protoculture that they came off so monotone. But yeah, to me they're believable as the Zentradi bosses, I guess you can say. So all right. So awesome stuff. Now we're gonna step away from the characters and just get down to some old-fashioned robo technology. So the Master Saga gave us a fresh lineup of mecha and military tech. You've got on the Army of the Southern Cross, the Veritech hover tank, the Veritech Ajax, which is the AKA the protocopter, and probably the most underrated mecha of all time, the Veritech Logan. To me, it's between that and Skull One. So you also had I'm including as an honorable mention the hover bike, which if anything from the technology and Robotech will be made within our lifetimes, I say it'll be the hover bike. I mean, you've got hover stuff that, these like flying hovercraft, but I would love to take a ride on a hover bike. So the Masters on the other side, they countered with their Biroid forces, whether they be their standard blue, Zor Prime's unique red Biroid, and also the Invid Fighter. They're what they considered their crowning achievement. So how do you guys feel? How does this array of technology stack up to the other generations of Robotech, whether that be Macross or the New Generation? Stop sharing. And Lewis, we're going to start with you again.
All righty. I think compared to the other two sagas, I kind of think that the Macross does the best of what they can because it's centered in space. So yeah, I can see that New Generation both having fighter jets and stuff like that because you're fighting in outer space stuff. I think the Master Saga does pretty well with mecha because you have the hover tanks. You're fighting on the ground. They have the advantage of the Biowards. Yeah, they may not be the fastest, but they have the firepower, and you can do more. I think the Logan is underrated for a fighter because it really did not get as much screen time as it should. I kind of like the protocopter. I wish they would have showed more of it in the anime instead of just a couple episodes where we saw it in space because I thought it could have been developed a lot more. It's capable of both ground combat, air combat, and space. You have a multi-purpose fighter for all three roles. Make more use of it. I would have phased it out. The other two, if it would have been me as Southern Cross, and focused more on the protocopter because it has a little bit more, in my opinion, advantages over the hover tank and the Logan. It can go faster, dodge more easier, and you can use it in 3 different places. Whereas the hover tanks, they had issues with them in space, in my opinion. That's just what I think.
Okay. Sweet. Awesome. Santiago, did you have what'd you think of the mecha from the Masters, and did you have a preference of any of them?
I mean the hover tank's cool. I definitely liked that. and the copter thing was kind of neat too. But yeah, we didn't just see a ton of it. I like the Logan in the Sentinels when Wolf saves Midman. What was her name? The
Janice
android.
M.
Yeah, Janice M. There we go. Saves them in it, so that was cool. But I definitely like the mechas in the first and third installment better, with like the jets and the motorcycles and stuff. Is more my bag when I was a kid.
All right, fair enough. Guys,
Again, I think the mecha in the Masters is the least convincing of them. The Bioroids were really cool. I like the Bioroids. They looked as, let's say, as agile, as responsive as they were explained to be. The fact that they're more integrated with their pilots and so on, that they worked as a sort of, let's say, light, medium heavy equipment. The hover tanks, in some ways, they work. There's something heavier, slower, more firepower. Hover cycles were cool. They're just vehicles to get around. Really, the Logan. I'm gonna have to disagree. It was unconvincing. It just the Veritex and the Valkyries came across more like something like, I don't know, a Sukhoi 27, F-15, that style of aircraft. Let's say the Alphas in the new generation came across as some like MiG 29s, F-16s. The Logans came across as a trainer aircraft with a dual attack trainer sort of thing. That's how it came across. The big canopy, small body comparatively. The fact that it didn't transform into a proper bio robot, it wasn't convincing. And but even worse than that was the copter, a space helicopter. I mean, the absurdity of it, a helicopter in space. They could have come up with something better, and right back to the Japanese creators of that. I mean, of all the vehicles to have as the Earth Defense Forces or whatever the Southern Cross greatest development is a space helicopter. What can I say? I don't know.
oh, I love your candor, and that's what I want. And, if you're against something in this,
No, some of it worked. The Bioroids were great.
Oh yeah.
What do you call it? The hover tanks in their own right worked, but the copter and the Logan were the weak points.
Let's say with the protocopter, would it have changed your opinion if you actually saw scenes of it flying as a helicopter, even if it's on Earth?
Maybe, yeah, certainly. Okay. If it was actually an Earth-bound weapon, the fact they introduce it, this is our ultimate space weapon, and it's a helicopter in space.
Right.
It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I get it. So, okay, awesome. Yeah. Chris.
Yeah, the mecha of the second generation, I always had I'm gonna go on a whim here and say I wasn't a big fan of most of it, and it was mainly down to the fact that I always felt that the colours were just rather dull. That's why my favorite mecha from the generations is from the third, because I just love the vast array of colors in that generation. When it comes to the mecha in the Master Saga, I love the Bioroids, I love the Invid Fighter, I love the hover tanks. Some of the hover tanks. I prefer the hover cycles though, because I always thought those were amazing, especially the way they're always zooming around town on them. And when it comes to all of the newer designs that they did with the helicopters and the Logans, I always felt like that it was like a first draft design. I feel like they could have made a few extra goes with it before they could come up with something more palpable.
Okay. it's again, I'm glad I'm having this event because you really get to, even if you're against it, it's about, really learning. And, I've taken a lot of takes from you guys tonight, and wow. So, but, Ian.
Well, I've pretty much in the previous question, I pretty much like explained that I prefer the Masters mecha over the Earth mecha to a significant degree. Again, I think the Bioroids were cool. I think they were a cool design. They had a cool look to them, and like the way that they kind of operated. The Earth mecha, not so much. Sorry, I'm not a fan of the Logan design. I'm sorry, John. I know you love it, but I'm not a fan of it. It kind of came off kind of half-assed to me, as other people have pointed out. The Ajax, I think, was kind of a weird design choice. Like Gates said, yeah, helicopter in space, what? And I think it would have worked better, like you said, if we had actually seen it in operation as a helicopter on Earth. I do believe that there is something, and I can't remember if there actually was anything on screen that showed that showed them like retracting their blades for space flight. I think that might have helped a little bit because like having the blades out in space, I think was just looked really dumb. The I kind of like the Spartan hover tanks. They have their points, although I think, as many have pointed out, I think it would have helped if maybe they had added like a a protective canopy or something like that for the pilots, because especially in Guardian mode and tank mode, they were kind of exposed like that. Um, I seem to remember reading somewhere that that was like something that was a production issue or something like that, behind the scenes, of why they didn't do that. And I think the Spartans were used would have probably been used a lot better and a lot more, as they would have been seen as the backbone of the Robotech Expeditionary Force ground forces and the Sentinels. But we're stuck with what we have, as far as like what we see them being used as in the Masters, which wasn't bad, but they're not as iconic as like the VF series Veritex or even the Alpha Fighters that we see later.
Fair enough. And again, it's the title of this is the case for and against, but in seeing all your responses, my vibe is that people are for it, but they're for it despite the flaws that are in it, because somehow it connects everything. So, but awesome take, Ian. Andrew.
I'm all for the rule of cool. I mean, the Macross series had genre defining mecha, and then you pop in with the second segment, the Logan. I mean, that's just goofy looking. Uh, and I did like the Ajax until it was pointed out that yeah, there's no air in space. So now I'm not a fan, but their little tricycle hover bikes, their personal ones, those were pretty cool. And I like the designs of the even though they got knocked over and stuff, the MP robots were kind of cool looking.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, forgot that. So, yeah, and with I the Logan, to me, again, I do say it's underrated. I love it. There are others out there who love it way too much, that that the stuff said here tonight would be considered some sort of religious blasphemy. So they'd never fit in with us here. So,
John, could you elaborate about the Logan? What it is that you like about it?
you know something, I was not a fan of Logan for the longest time, for what how would you put it, for the same reasons you've brought it up. And um the Brian, who's with us here, Brian Dunmead, he did some 3D modeling, computer graphics, the Logan in different types of stances and just the weapons, and it made a fan out of me. It really did. And I go by strictly headcanon. I can't go that the Logan comes off as clunky in the animation. Absolutely. I'll agree there. But my headcanon sees so much more from the give me just a second, I got a frog in my throat. It sees I see it as a more versatile craft. Now, I will say, the more that I've gotten into the novels versus the show, I kind of see the mechas kind of different. Yeah, to me, I've replaced in my head that the Veritech fighter, for example, is no longer a derivative of an F-14 fighter. I imagine it as a different jet fighter. So while we have the Logan as we see it in the Masters, I kind of see it beyond that. I like the compact shape, and that I kind of consider it kind of like a mini Warthog, A-10 Warthog or Thunderbolt. So,
Okay.
but yeah, that's to say that if I would base it off strictly off the animation, no, I wouldn't. So it's the expanded
Okay.
universe stuff and the headcanon. So
The novels, yeah, obviously, yeah.
yeah. So
Okay.
all right.
Well, the novels definitely have. I think that the one chapter that definitely been improved most by the novels is the Masters. So
Oh, absolutely.
fair enough. Yeah.
We're getting to that question next. So, Jason Stefani, what did you think of the Mac?
Well, to jump on the bandwagon, I am more of a Macross and new generation mech kind of guy. Just saying. But I would pilot anything at least once. I'd give the hover tank a try. I'd give the Logan a try. I'd even give the protocopter a try. If I had to pick one, though, I think I would probably give the hover cycle a chance. The only problem is, knowing my luck, I'd probably be going through the windshield of someone's car while trying to ride one. That's just me.
Just watch the episode with Dana, how to handle it. So,
oh yeah. I definitely wouldn't mess with the Bioroids. I can tell you that.
okay. I see there's almost a consensus that the Biroids are convincing as an antagonistic mecha. So, all right, awesome. Maura.
I'm gonna give a shout out to one of my old Robotech.com buddies who ended up joining the tank units in the army. So, thinking of him, but I would have to go with the Bioroids myself.
Okay. Wow. Like personally for me, I saw that I see the Bioroids, I'm like, they're just big, but hey, it's I like your takes. Do you have a particular, are you a red or a blue or an Invid fighter?
I liked, well, the red one was the one that haunted Dana, and
Right.
I just liked how like they had the three of who act as one.
Okay.
I was thinking, I don't know if I ever mentioned this before, but I have two Robotech girlfriends who we were a triumvirate back in the day, and when we at Dragon Con one year, we all got Flower of Life tattoos on us.
No way.
Yeah, yeah. It's on my leg. I can't show it because I can't stretch that much anymore. But yeah, but like we used to say we're a triumvirate. So just throw that in there.
Wow. Going all the way with the Master Saga.
Oh, yeah.
Donald, you're the Stinger guy. So what did you think of the Master Saga Mac?
The hover tank, there are some possibilities. I mean, they going through Dairy Queen, the drive-through, or Taco Bell. But add definitely more weapons, like something to take care of the global police, something that fires tennis balls. So it knocks them off. Hey, you can't get me. And have a, believe it or not, have a cave or something headed up. Hey, there's my bat cave, and you only come out when ain't nobody's watching. It'd be a fun thing to have.
Yeah. Fan of the Biroids or no?
Biroids? Imagine getting a dozen Biroids and start doing a Thriller. They're all dancing in step.
That's awesome.
That's possibility.
Yeah. Okay. I approached this with Mr. Brian 3D cautiously. What do you got to say about the mech?
Okay. It's the way I look at it. If I look at it from the world of, or the universe of Robotech, the mecha that Earth has left at its disposal after the RAF left makes sense. Because the Earth that's left behind has very tight resources or very limited resources. So they needed vehicles, they needed weapons that were mass producible and easy for the pilots to learn, to utilize, and hopefully be good with them. So when I look at Earth, they don't have, if you want to call them destroids, they're not destroids. They're not. They were just humanoid robots that, I mean, you only saw them in the intro. If you seen one in the actual animation, you were lucky. And they never seem to have made any kind of an impact, except the ground. Um, Regarding the hover tanks, they're ground pounders. They make perfect sense for ground vehicles. They don't make sense for something going through the air, and they don't make sense for something that's going through space, unless they are doing what they did in Masters, and that is beaching the motherships of the Masters. So they weren't meant to be space vehicles. Regarding the cockpit, look, if you look at it from the production side of things, we know production had a lot of challenges in making two-dimensional cavalry coming across. If you look at it from the Robotech universe, you're talking about a vehicle that, again, it's not necessarily meant to be upfront combat. It's a tank with a howitzer. That's a long range weapon. And then for short range, it's got the little minigun, if you want to call it a minigun, Triton minigun. So, and it's a heavily armored vehicle. So, and I ain't moving fast. So the hover tank makes sense. The Logan, if you consider the fact that the Earth forces still had regular fighters, clunky, weird wedge fighters, but they still needed a Veritech because, again, from the Robotech universe, Zentrani was what they were thinking. They needed something that still had the mobility of a Veritech, but they still needed to meet the requirements of design needs. So the Logan makes sense. So I'm a fan of the Logan more because I model it in all the different ways. I mean, it's right, it's in my background, if you can say, with all its different armaments. So I'm a fan of the Logan from that perspective. Um, as far as the Ajax copter is concerned, look, they should have dropped the copter because they never showed it in the atmosphere and they never showed it where the advantage of having a copter mode existed. They should have just left it as a fighter jet that can go into a Byron mode. Because look, if it's a Robotech device, it could have done vertical takeoff and landing. I mean, come on, every time we see other Veritech mecha do that. The hover tank could do a vertical takeoff and land because it had jets on it. So while like the Ajax was okay, I don't think it was great. I don't think it was terrible. Again, within the confines of the show, the universe, it makes sense. Viroids, I'm sorry, I thought I was all for the first 5 minutes of the Invid thyroid fighter. I was all afraid. You know, the three actors won, blah blah blah, until you shoot one of them in the face, and the whole thing falls apart. I think the first generation Bioroids were more fearful, more fearsome in their combat abilities. They were more agile, they were more nimble. If one of them got shot in the face, they didn't all fall apart. I thought the Invid fighter was a joke. Hover cycle, huh. Dana piloted it best. That's my opinion on that. Now, if we look at it outside the show and we're just looking at models or toys or something like that, hands down, I'm going to go new generation. Macross is cool, but I'm sorry, an Alpha fighter with a Beta fighter connection, and then you got the Cyclone cycle will pop out afterwards. Yeah, yeah, I'm going to count with that one. So that's my opinion of well, yeah, that's pretty much my opinion of the mecha of Masters. I'm still a big fan of the Logan. I mean, there's so much we didn't see that it could do. But if you're looking at it as all three generations, you're not taking into account the economics of the universe for the time that it took place. Yeah, it was a soap dish with two rocket engines on it that had a little pea shooter that went pew pew.
All right. Okay. So I'm gonna to close out this question. Go Logan. That's what I'm gonna say. The protocopter, I'm with you on. Yeah, that was. What was that? What was that? It had no practical use in space. It was just you could have done. It just could have been just another like spaceship with that converted into a Battleoid. So, but yes, again, go Team Logan. Okay, so this is gonna be just a yes or no question because we've talked about it throughout the night. Okay, beyond the animation, you have the comic books, specifically the original Kamiko comics that came out like during the first run of the show. And covered all the episodes from the Master Saga. Plus, they added a few things here and there that wasn't in the animation, especially when it came to Dana's upbringing. That's where you had the Rico, Kanda, and Bron, the three Zentradi spies as your godfathers. That is mentioned in the, I think it's, I don't think it's Dana's story, but in the next issue. So, of course, the legendary Robotech novels, which took the entire Robotech saga to a new level. You have the fan created scenarios and campaigns in the RPG books, whether that be Palladium in the past or right now with Strange Machine Games with their current book, Homefront, which I recommend to everyone, even if you're not an RPGer, because it has a lot of good lore in it and they cover the Master Saga extensively. So my question, and it's going to be, really just yes or no. Did the expanded universe save the Master Saga from being completely dismissed? And Lewis, let's go with you again.
Yeah, definitely. Without the expanded universe, I think the Master Saga would have been fallen through, been like a forgotten piece. Well, the expanding universe really brings it into the limelight. Really helps flush out the anime with what they had to do. I kind of wish at the time if they could have done it. I know they couldn't afford to complete the Sentinels because of the issues with the marketing. I wish they could have kind of tried to pull some of that film footage they had done for the Sentinels. They were planning to do, kind of intersperse that in there into the Master Saga. Kind of try to weave the two together. So you kind of had a little bit of the Masters, a little bit of the Sentinels together. But that's just my personal opinion. I think the expanding universe really helps bridge the gap that the anime loses because he was pressed for time with what he had.
Okay. Awesome. Brian T says yes. Chris England, yes or no? Expanded universe saved Master Saga.
Yes, yes, and furthermore, yes. I still have my notes from the novelization that I had on my Word, and I was going through it while looking at it, and I'm re-reminding myself of stuff in the novelizations, like the extra stuff they added in, like Dr. Laszlo Zand and Polly the Pollinator, still best name ever. How they answered a few plot holes in the series, on answered a few things that didn't make sense. Like, for example, why Captain Komodo was so quick to fire the first shot because his brother got killed during the opening fight, or like how the Southern Cross somehow knew that the human pilot was called Zor. Well, because they added into it that he told Dana. It's like it's these little things that fill in the blanks of the whole saga that I really like.
Okay. God, every time you bring up the novels, I just so Guy, did it save it?
Um, I wouldn't say that the Masters would have fallen flat on its face without the extended universe, but it definitely helped it. So yeah, I'd be in the camp saved it ish. I mean, Malcontent Uprisings, if we're going to count that, that was great. The Rolling Thunder was nice. I liked a lot of the stuff in the novels. I think some of the action scenes in the novels on the ground were a bit hard to keep up with, the tank battles, things like that. But generally the novels did help it. I liked the let's say some of the romantic tension they added with Angelo and Dana. But the one thing for Masters, my favorite, let's say, Masters related extended universe, I don't know what you're going to call what we call the media or something, was the Robotech Visions. I love the
Okay,
Robotech
yeah.
Visions,
The
what they did.
Facebook page.
Yeah, yeah, with that was hands down the best. I don't know. Well, I mean, it just I know it wasn't a full story, it wasn't an animation, it wasn't a book, not even a comic book, but how they did it as a visual medium, it got across a lot in what they did. I just wish they could have done something more with that. I don't know.
Yeah, really
For me,
nice
that just
art they
stood
were
out.
able.
Yeah. And this almost the storytelling with just the art. And in a minimalist sort of way. The fact it was just a series of a few uh, pictures, like whatever, 20, 30, 40 pictures, and they tell a whole story or whole era that's, that's, I don't know, maybe not missing, but that hasn't been expanded that much. I thought they did a great job with that.
Awesome. Ian, novels, comics, RPGs, the savior of the Masters saga?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think, I said this earlier too. I think that the expanded universe did a lot to rehabilitate the Master Saga and make it seem less disjointed and less clunky and make it more of an integral part of the Robotech saga. With all that additional background details that they gave us, not just on Dana and her life, how she was raised, but also the Masters and their universe and their civilization and just how big it was and how powerful it was. In the chat, I kind of made it a reference, or I kind of compared them a bit to the Go Old in Stargate SG-1. That's kind of like what I think too. Like Brian said, that's kind of like what they were probably like at the height of their power. Because if you saw Stargate, like the Go Old held sway over large, vast chunks of the universe, and the Masters were pretty much the same way. In their heyday, they were nigh unbeatable, and they still could be. And I like how Justin and the guys at Strange Machine Games are kind of using that in their timeline and making them, they're isolated pockets of Robotech Masters still out there in the galaxy, because an empire that vast is still going to have remnants of them in there, these isolated segments or whatever. No, an empire that big has got to leave behind like a few of those. So But yeah, and I'm looking forward. I don't have the book Homefront yet. I'm going to get it as part of my reward for backing the Among the Stars core rule book. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with that as well. So yeah, definitely, without a doubt, the expanding universe did help the Robotech Masters.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Andrew.
In my heart, the EU saved it.
I'll throw this at you. Let me ask you this, Andrew. I'm gonna throw a curveball here. Ultimately, could Robotech survive without the Master Saga?
Yes.
I'm not saying it should. Could it?
It could have, except for the expanded universe made some of the characters more they intertwined them better.
Okay.
As strictly as the cartoon, I wouldn't have missed it.
Okay. Good take. Jason, yes or no on Saviors of the Master Saga?
Yes, I think so. Like the expanded universe, such as the novels, mind you, really did a deep dive into the Masters that we didn't see in the television show. And while the television show was a bit clunky, the expanded universe really helped to flesh it out, smooth out the creases. Why did this happen? Oh, read the books. You'll get your answer. Stuff like that. Just to put it lightly.
Brian T, one word answer? Yes. Straight to the point. Maura.
Well, it didn't need saving for me, but I love the novels and how much it expanded it. And I also have a notebook somewhere in my attic of all the different things I would write down about like the history they created and Zora's background and all that. The comic books in regards to the Master Saga, I did not like any of them as far as I remember.
Okay. Now you said the shapings in your comment. Could you expand on that?
Well, we were talking about the visions that in the novels. It was called the shapings of the protoculture. We used to use that line too, like when weird stuff was happening, we'd say, "Oh, it's the shapings."
God, I've done that too. So, Mr. BD.
I'm gonna say yes, but I'm gonna add to the point that to me, because of the events that happened within the storyline of the Masters, Robotech would not be what it is today without that added element. And then I'm gonna say the books, the comics really expanded on an area of storytelling that really needed greater expansion for the greater fandom to enjoy. Otherwise, it would be a very small clutch of fans behind Masters.
Yes, that's my answer. Definitely yes. There are those I can tell you right now that would, if this were like the old, the Dark Ages, would call us heretics, blasphemous, and burn us at the stake for what we're talking
The,
about tonight. So,
the, the
especially with
things that
this
would be
question,
tossed.
yeah. When it comes to the rest of the questions, I had set this up for a maximum of 3 hours and we're getting there. And I know that there are people in different time zones and everything. And I want to be respectful of that. I'm going to put those questions up on the pages and I would really love it if you could all answer. So they'll be up on, they have to do with the Sentinels, and the merchandising of the Master Saga, and And the final question is what I had asked
Wait,
Andrew.
did you just use merchandising and Master Saga in the same sentence?
Yeah. I got some
Damn.
interesting questions there. So, but yeah, and then the answer what I asked Andrew that ultimately could Robotech or even with the expanded universe, could Robotech do without um do without the Master Saga? And then with the Sentinels connection, the question is along the lines, is the Master Saga really a spin-off of the Sentinels? So I'm gonna put them up on both pages, stories and Robotech Novels Universe. I would love your take on this, and perhaps at some point we can return to this in a live event. But again, I know you guys. I know some of you are on the East Coast. I know Gaith, it's early in the morning. I know it's late for Chris, and I never want to keep you guys beyond beyond what I had planned for. However, I have two things I want to announce. So let me just share before we leave. Okay, our next stop on the anniversary tour.
I like to play on
Robotech,
words.
the Symphony of Fight. That is going to be our next live event in July. There won't be anything in June. I might pop in and do like a quick one, but in July, we're going to have our next big event, and it just may be bigger than the Golden Globals, if you can imagine that. Because what we're going to be doing is in a virtual wrestling ring, we're going to put at least 30 of your favorite Robotech characters from all the generations, Macross, Masters, New Generation, and including the Sentinels. We're going to put them in a virtual ring, and it's going to be in a style of a battle royal where every 90 seconds, one gets eliminated until we have a champion. And it's going to be you guys and girls who are going to decide who becomes that champion. So, just quick details. It's going to be Friday, July 25th, 7:30 Central, exclusively here on Zoom. And in July, there will be one. And I'm going to have more details on it in the next few weeks. And we're going to set up the voting just we did with the Golden Globals, and I'm probably going to put some twists in it. I'm going to have probably that you can vote more times during the day, and that you can vote multiple choices. So you can consider Roy Fokker a favorite, but who knows? Maybe Captain Komodo winds up winning. So it can be wild, it can be unpredictable, and that's the part that I love. So in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be setting things up and then setting up the voting center, and we're just going to kick ass because I'm just like the Golden Globals. This is something that I wanted to do for a long time, as I'm kind of a wrestling fan, not as big as I was years back, but still, and I want to have a good time. So be on the lookout for the new for the information on Robotech, the Symphony of Fight. Now, the people who are still here, you guys are going to get an exclusive, because we're not even live on Facebook. You guys are here right now. So you guys are going to be able to see something that was given to me by Justin Grolke of Strange Machine Games. They're the ones that are they're producing the new generation of Robotech RPGs. They've got the Macross Saga, they've got Homefront, and then the next book is going to be Among the Stars. They did a Kickstarter last year, and all that is in production, and hopefully we'll have some more concrete news soon. But Justin sent this to me. He said, use it as you want, spread it as you want. And I couldn't think of a better time that here for the people who are here that came, and including the ones that had to leave. I'm going to send them, I can send them a message saying, hey, you got to check out the video. This is exclusive art from Among the Stars.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Nice.
That is awesome.
We got Wolf, we got Jack Baker, Karen Penn, Marcus Rush, Vince Grant, Kabarins, Garudins, Bella, Teal, Bella, the Praxians, Teal from Spherus, Tesla. Tesla's there. Peritonians. You've got the Invid Regent, Janice, and Vate from the Haydenites.
Down with the Haydenites.
So
amazing.
this is my thank you to you, to the people who came here tonight. He said, this will go up on the pages next week, but I figured, hey, let's give you guys the exclusive. The guys and our girl, the exclusive. So what do you guys think?
They put some effort into those drawings.
That is nice. That is real nice.
Giving it top notch. That's the details, the shading, the designs are really good.
Yeah. Love it. Again, can't wait to see what the finished product looks like. Really.
Yeah.
This is, my original gesture when I saw this says it all for me right now. So metal. Yeah.
Looks like they could turn them right into a Robotech the Sentinels TV show.
Oh yeah.
I'm digging the uniform transition of Jack and Karen. Southern Cross
from REF to Sentinels.
Yeah.
I didn't think of that. That's so there you go. So there you go, peoples. My thank you to you for being part of this. I'm going to exit the sharing now. There we go. All right. Oh, what a night. What can I say? We knocked it out of the park. It's like I all this energy that builds up in me for this event, and then once I realize we're coming to the end, I am just spent. And the first thing I'm thinking is I'm walking 3 blocks down and gonna have me a drink at the pub. So
if I could join you.
God, you guys are awesome. You just everyone,
John, right now I'm thinking 2 things: celebrity deathmatch, robot chicken.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I can't animate it, but I'll do my best to create tension. So
it's close enough, man. It's close enough.
So, but fun times ahead. Again, thank you for all the support you guys give the pages. I'm trying to put more work on more content and really refine this, and really my ultimate goal, I will say it now, is to build a platform, a Robotech platform of just everything and everything. And people who say, oh, there's not enough Robotech out there, I say bullshit. There's so much material that we can work with, and not just the established stuff. It's also the theories. It's also the fan headcanon. And you guys know my motto. It's all canon. So I'm looking forward to what's ahead, and thank you all for being part of this journey. We're going to have some real good time. So, if anybody has any final words, please.
I'm all down for celebrity deathmatch or robot chicken. Just saying.
Celebrity deathmatch, robot chicken, Robotech style.
Yeah.
Do we get Seth Green involved?
So,
Conrad will beat the chicken to death.
I just want to say,
man.
because I've been listening lately to Robo Skullcast and stuff. So, I've heard, I know, that would be great to see Lisa attack with her doodly hair, or Sammy whip out her crowbars. Or Global
I'm just
whips out
wondering who's
piping
gonna
and,
win, Dana
starts
or her
beating.
parents.
What?
At least I'll give you quotes from each of the characters that'll be involved. Unique quotes and colorful. So.
Chiron, oh, I have. This is
So,
Captain, no smoking on the bridge is against regulations.
yeah.
guys are giving me ideas. But again, I truly appreciate all of you, especially including the people who had to leave. That Henry is going to be one hell of a Robotech fan.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
that's
Definitely.
I think his essay and his input has been it has been one of the high spots of this 40th anniversary. So
Agreed.
So
Yeah,
I hope he
agreed.
got an A on that.
yeah.
I hope he got an A
And,
on that.
You know what makes it really cool? He's watched the animation and read the books.
Yep.
Yep.
So, and to those who's here, Lewis, Geith, and Mora, like I said, your packages will be shipped, if not tomorrow, Monday. So, and I'll get back with everybody with tracking numbers. So, all right, guys, that's it. Enjoy the rest of your night. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I love you all. I love you. Thank you so much. And
You're
as
the man.
always,
Thanks, John.
much
Thanks,
love,
George.
Night.
kick ass,
Night.
stay humble, believe in the possibilities. I'll talk to y'all
Have
soon.
a good one, everybody.
Have a good one,
Robotech
everybody.
will
Take care.
return
Take care,
these
JT. You guys
messages.
have a good one, all right?
See you, everybody.